The Everglades forest was as dense as deadly. Ancestral trees looked like immovable sentinels, their high heels forming such a thick canopy that even the sunlight could not penetrate completely. It was a swamp jungle, infested with crocodiles, giant snakes and mosquitoes. For most, this place was a nightmare landscape. For Jack Morrison, it was like his home. Jack was 35 and worked as a tour guide in Everglades almost a decade ago. He knew every forgotten trail, every shortcut, and even the sounds he indicated when something was wrong. But even someone like Jack could not predict what was about to happen. And before we continue with this intriguing story, be sure to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. This helps us bring more content like this to you. Now let's go back to the story. It all started with a strange call on the morning of a stuffy Tuesday. Jack was cleaning the engine of his boat when he received a call. Across the line, a voice, laden voice. "You need to go to Blackwater's Reserve." Someone saw him again. Another attack. Blackwater was one of the most remote and unexplored parts of Everglades. Almost no one would go there. Jack frowned. "What do you mean with he? What are you talking about?" "From the Mademi monkey." The voice on the line choked before completing, "A fisherman was attacked last night. He's still alive, but says that was not a normal animal." Jack listened to stories of this monkey demon for years. Some were urban legends about a bloodthirsty primate that appeared in the swamp and disappeared without leaving traces. Others were confused reports of drunk and lost hunters. He never paid much attention, but this time there was something different. Reports of deaths began to emerge with a disturbing frequency. Curious, and above all, skeptical, Jack accepted the work. He knew that any animal attack on Blackwater attracted tourists and reporters, and that meant money. However, there was something in his intuition that said this time the mystery would be more complicated. When Jack reached the attack scene, he found a small group gathered at the bank of a dark swamp. The fisherman, a man named Hank Watson, was being carried by paramedics. His left leg was bandaged, and he screamed disconnected words as if he was in shock. "It was big, bigger than me." "Jumped from the tree," Hank poured, his eyes wide, the eyes red as fire. Jack watched the people around. 2 biologists were at the scene, collecting samples of something that seemed to be by the reddish. A policeman wrote down testimonials, but clearly I didn't know what to do with the stories. "I heard about this monkey, but this is legend of superstitious people," he murmured to Jack. "Probably just a bear." But Jack was not convinced. The bears had no red eyes, and not even ambushed as smart predators. "I need to go deeper into this forest. There's something wrong here." He decided right there he would go to Blackwater, even knowing the risks. That night, Jack began preparations for the expedition. He called 2 friends to help him, Clara, a researcher who loved to solve biological mysteries, and Tyler, a freelance photographer obsessed with capturing images of bizarre events. "If there is a moan monkey, I'll be the first to photograph it," said Tyler, laughing. Clara was more serious. "Whatever it may seem aggressive, maybe it's a new species or an animal with a mutation, but we need to be ready for the worst." Armed with high-power lanterns, survival equipment, and a healthy dose of skepticism, the 3 boarded Jack's boat and set off to dawn to Blackwater's heart. In the middle of the jungle, the mood was strange. There were no birds singing, nor the typical sounds of the swamp. It was a silence that made Jack's chest squeeze. "This is wrong," Clara said as she looked at the trees. "It's as if everything had run away from here." Tyler pointed his camera to the treetops, trying to capture some movement. "Maybe we are being observed." He laughed, but the tone of nervousness in his voice was evident. Suddenly a snap echoed on the right. It was tall, like a branch being broken. Jack signaled to the group to be silent. Taking his knife, he led the way, following the sound. The fog was beginning to cover the ground, creating distorted shadows. And then they saw footprints, big and strange, like a primate. But there was something wrong. Brands seemed to have a bizarre pattern, as if the fingers were longer than normal. This is not from an ordinary animal," Clara whispered. Before someone could answer, a roar echoed through the forest. It was severe, guttural, and seemed to come from all directions at the same time. Tyler stumbled back, almost knocking the camera. "My God, what was that?" "Run!" Jack shouted, realizing too late that the sound came from above. They looked up and saw a pair of bright red eyes. The money monkey stared at them, crouching in a thick branch about to attack. Clara's scream echoed through the forest when the money monkey jumped from the branch, disappearing between the shadows before they could react. It was like a red blur, too fast for anyone to sue. Jack grabbed Clara by the arm and pulled Tyler, who was still trying to recover his balance. "Run, now!" Jack screamed, pointing in the opposite direction. The sound of the branches breaking them surrounded them as something big followed them closely. Clara stumbled at an exposed root, falling to the floor, but Jack was there to lift her. Tyler was behind them, his camera hanging around his neck, swinging wildly. "Did you see that? Did you see?" he shouted, the hysterical tone. "It's not time to argue, Tyler. Go soon," Jack answered, pushing him to continue. The group ran until they found a small stream where they finally stopped, panting and sweating. The silence came back, interrupted only by the panting breathing of the three. Jack looked around, checking if they were safe. "Did you see the size of that? It was not an ordinary monkey. That was analyzing us," Clara said, still in shock. "It was too fast. I couldn't take a picture, but I swear, I've never seen something so human, but at the same time so wrong." Tyler cringed, squeezing the camera. Jack remained silent, trying to sue. He knew they couldn't go back, not after that. Something in that creature was unlike anything I had ever found, something that went beyond legends or bonfire stories. As the group advanced through the forest, they found disturbing evidence, decreased branches, as if they had been broken with a huge force, and dry blood stains on some trees. Clara approached one of the trunks and noticed deep claw marks. "Look, the claws look bigger than those of a bear. And the pattern, it's like a hand." She looked at Jack, who analyzed the footprints on the ground. "These marks indicate that he walks on all fours, but..." Jack hesitated, looking more closely. "The feet are different from the hands. This means that it can switch between walking erect and use all members." "As a predator," Clara added, the trembling voice. Later they reached a partially flooded clearing. The floor was covered with mud and scattered bones, small animals, birds, and even remains that seemed to belong to an alligator. Clara knelt near the bones and took a skull. "This has been crushed here, as if it had been broken in half with your hands." Jack approached, noting tooth marks on the bones. "This confirms what I heard about the attacks. It not only kills, but also feeds on the prey. And it does that with a frightening accuracy." "Do you think we are in his territory?" Tyler asked, swallowing hard. "I don't think. I'm sure," Jack replied, his eyes fixed on the trees around. When the sun began to put it, the group's tension increased. The forest, already silent, seemed even more oppressive in the waning light. Jack decided to set up a small camp in a high area, away from the water. "It's not the safest place, but at least we can watch around," Jack said while setting up a fire. Clara and Tyler were exhausted, but couldn't sleep. The fear that the monkey demon could be watching the maintained alerts. It was then that in the middle of the night, Clara heard something. It was a low sound, almost like a heavy breath from somewhere in the shadows. She woke up Jack immediately. "There's something here, Jack, I'm sure." Jack took his flashlight and looked around, sweeping the darkness. The beam of light revealed trees, shrubs, and two red eyes shining in the fog. "Stay behind me," Jack ordered, holding a knife in one hand and the flashlight in the other. The eyes disappeared, and the sound of quick steps echoed around them. It was as if the creature was running in circles, cornering them. Tyler took his camera and started recording, although his hands trembled so much that he almost dropped the equipment. Suddenly, a piercing cry echoed through the forest. It wasn't Jack, Clara, or Tyler. It was someone else. "Someone is out there," Clara said, alarmed. Without thinking, Jack ran toward the sound, with Clara and Tyler behind him. They advanced through the forest until they reached a small abandoned shack. Inside, a man was lying on the floor, bleeding and moaning in pain. "My God! Who are you? What happened?" Clara ran to him, trying to help. "The monkey! He followed me. I tried to escape, but he's too fast." The man coughed, spitting blood. Jack looked around, noting that the shack was full of claws on the walls and dry bloodstains. "We can't stay here. He will come back." "It's too late," the man murmured before losing consciousness. It was then that they heard the roar again. This time it was closer. Clara looked at Jack, terrified. "He's coming." Jack grabbed the knife harder, his heart fired. He knew that would be the most dangerous moment of the expedition so far. The roar reverberated through the forest, such a deep and guttural sound that it seemed to vibrate in the bones. The group froze for a moment, while the echo dissipated in the darkness. Jack was the first to act. "Take it!" He pointed to the unconscious man on the floor. "Tyler helps me with him. Clara, you take the lanterns. We have to get out of here now." Clara took the flashlights and searched the shack for anything useful. He found an old, rusty but functional rifle. "This can be useful," he murmured, handing him to Jack. Tyler and Jack raised the injured man and began carrying his weight. The group came out of the shack, their steps sinking into the mud as they walked away. Behind them, the sound of something moving in the trees has become impossible to ignore. Branches snapped, leaves rustled, and the sound of a heavy breath surrounded them. "He's playing with us," Tyler murmured, his voice, laden voice. "Just keep walking," Jack replied, trying to keep the group moving. Suddenly, Clara stopped. "Wait, listen." The group froze, holding the breath. The forest was silent again, but Jack's instinct told him that something was wrong. Before he could react, a red figure jumped from a tree and hit Tyler with a blow that threw him to the floor. "Tyler!" Clara shouted, pointing her flashlight to the creature. Finally, they could see him closely. It was huge, with reddish and shiny like fresh blood. His long, muscular arms ended in disproportionately large hands, with thin fingers and sharp claws. But what terrified the eyes most? An intense red that seemed to be pulsed, as if they were alive. Tyler tried to drag himself away, but the Mun Monkey approached, his teeth shining in the flashlight. Jack reacted fast, raising his rifle and firing. The sound of the shot echoed through the forest, and the creature released a deafening cry before disappearing in the shadows. "Is he gone?" Clara asked, shaking. "For now." Jack checked the rifle. "We don't have many bullets. We need to find a safe place." Tyler was injured but conscious. "He attacked me on purpose, as if I knew exactly what I was doing." "Like this?" Clara asked as she helped Tyler get up. "He could have killed me, but he didn't. He just wanted to hurt me. It's kidding us." The group continued, their senses now sharper. The forest seemed alive around them, every sound amplified by fear. Jack led, trying to trace a path out of the creature's territory. As they walked, they found something that made them stop. In the middle of a small clearing, there was a circle of stones. Inside the circle, pieces of bones were arranged in strange, almost geometric patterns. "This was not done by an animal," Clara murmured, kneeling to analyze more closely. Jack looked around, the rifle in hand. "This confirms what I feared. This thing is intelligent, and this here, it's like a warning." "A warning of what?" Tyler asked, panting. "Not to be here," Jack answered, his voice firm. While Clara examined her bones, she found something that brought her back with disgust. It was a piece of fabric, spotted with blood, which seemed to belong to an outfit. "These are not just animal bones." She looked at Jack. "He has killed other people." The group was silent. The feeling of being observed became more intense. Ahead they reached a cave partially hidden by vegetation. Jack hesitated before entering, but knew they needed a place to protect themselves as they took care of Tyler's injuries and the injured man they carried. The cave was humid and cold, but at least offered protection. Clara treated Tyler's injuries while Jack explored the interior with a flashlight. That's when he found something that made him freeze. At the bottom of the cave, there were drawings on the walls. They were rudimentary, but clear. They showed humanoid figures being attacked by a large creature with bright eyes. Another part, there were footprint designs, similar to the ones they had found before. But the most disturbing was the last drawing. Showed 3 human figures and the creature surrounding them. Jack ran back to the group. "This cave is not safe. He's been here before." Clara looked at him, alarmed. "Are you saying that he knows we are here?" Jack nodded. "And it won't be long before he comes back." Suddenly, a scream echoed through the forest again from outside the cave. The group got up, alarmed. "Is it someone else?" Tyler asked, trying to get up despite the pain. "It is him, trying to attract us," Jack replied, adjusting the rifle. "But what if it's someone in need of help?" Clara insisted. Jack hesitated. He knew it was a trap, but he also knew he couldn't ignore the possibility of saving someone. "I'll check it out," Jack said finally. "Clara, stay here with Tyler and the man. If I don't come back in 10 minutes, you run." Clara tried to protest, but Jack was already outside. As he advanced through the forest, Jack followed the sound to a marshy area. He held the rifle hard, his eyes attentive to any movement. "Is there anyone there?" he called, but he only heard the sound of the water moving slowly. Then he saw. Something was floating in the swamp, almost covered by vegetation. He approached with caution, the flashlight illuminating the dark water. It was a body. Jack felt his stomach turn to realize that his body was almost unrecognizable, with deep claw marks and exposed bones. He stepped back, but before he could react, he heard a sound behind him. Turning quickly, he saw the red eyes once again. The Mun monkey was still, as if studying him, but this time there was something different in your eyes. It was not just hunger or violence, it was hatred. Jack lifted the rifle, but before he could shoot, the creature roared and ran into the shadows again, disappearing into the darkness. Jack ran back to the cave, his heart fired. Upon entering, he found Clara and Tyler panicked. "He was here!" Clara shouted. Jack looked around and saw the claws marks on the walls. He knew they were running out of time. "This is not just an animal," Jack murmured, looking at the designs in the cave again. "This thing has a reason, and we need to find out what it is before it finishes what it started." The tension in the cave was almost unbearable. Clara, still trembling, pointed to the brands left by the Mapan Macaco on the walls. The deep claws were everywhere, as if the creature had invaded the place just to leave a message. "He's hunting us," Clara said, breaking the silence. "This is not about territory, it's something personal, as if he wanted to prove something." Jack, holding the rifle with his hands sweaty, watched the cave entrance. He knew they couldn't stay there for long. The creature was not only following them, but also manipulating them, cornering them. "Clara, how are the injuries of Tyler and the other man?" Jack asked, trying to keep the focus. "Tyler is still weak but can walk. The other, he lost a lot of blood. If we can't help it soon, it won't survive." Jack looked at the unconscious man. He knew that dragging someone wounded would make them even more vulnerable, but leaving him behind was not an option. "We have to get out of here before it darkens again. He's going back, and next time, he won't just play." As the group left the cave, Jack decided they needed a plan. "We can't just run away. This thing will continue to pursue us. We need to find a way of facing or pushing it away." "How exactly do we face something like this?" Clara asked, her voice loaded with unbelief. "He's not just an animal. He's smarter than anything I've ever seen." Jack was silent, thinking. "So we have to be smarter." They began to explore the forest again, this time with one goal in mind, to find something they could use to their advantage. Jack knew that the Mun monkey used the trees and the darkness to attack. If you could find an open area or create a trap, you might have a chance. After hours walking, they arrived at a strange area. It was a circular clearing with burnt trees and dry soil. In the center, there was a kind of makeshift altar made of branches and bones. Clara approached cautiously. "It looks like ritualistic. Do you think anyone did that?" Tyler asked, looking at the remains with disgust. "Perhaps. But what if it's not someone? What if it's him?" Clara answered, looking at Jack. Jack frowned. "Do you think he is capable of this?" "Jack, look around us. He is not an ordinary animal. This here was not done by instinct. It was planned. What if he's not just a creature? What if it's something else?" "Something more, like what?" Tyler asked nervously. Clara hesitated before answering. "What if he is a kind of guardian? Or worse, a predator who has evolved in some way, perhaps because of something that happened here?" While investigating the clearing, Jack found something disturbing. An old iron sign, almost totally covered by moss. He cleaned the plate with his hand, revealing what seemed to be a warning. "Restricted property. Experiments in progress. Do not enter." Jack stared at the words, trying to understand the meaning. This is not recent. Seems to have decades." Clara approached, reading the plate carefully. "If there were experiments here, that would explain a lot." "Like this?" Tyler asked. "Look, what if this forest is not just an ordinary forest? What if this Madame monkey is the result of something they went wrong? An experiment that has run away from control?" Jack took a deep breath, trying to keep his calm. "If this is true, we need to find out what happened here. Maybe this gives us an advantage." As they continued to explore, the group found an old installation hidden by vegetation. The building was crumbling, but there were still signs that there was a laboratory there. Clara found documents scattered on the floor, most of them unreadable over time. But one of them caught his attention. It was a 1984 report, written in large letters at the top, "Gabriel Project, Subject, Alpha 01. Clara read aloud, "Genetic experiments in primates have shown significant advances. The combination of human DNA with primacy species resulted in..." "My God, Jack, they were creating hybrids." Tyler looked at her incredulously. "Are you saying he is an experience?" "It's possible," Clara answered, flipping through the document. "Look at this. Subjects have extremely aggressive behavior and above-average intelligence. Alpha 01 escaped the confinement in... The last part is erased." Jack took the roll of Clara's hands, reading again. "If this is true, it is not just a creature. It was made to be a perfect predator." "And we are in his hunting zone," Tyler murmured, realizing the severity of the situation. While they were in the lab, they heard a noise, a distant but unmistakable sound, the roar of the Mun monkey. "He knows we're here," Jack said, holding the rifle hard. "And if he came here, it's because we don't want us to find out anymore." Clara looked at Jack. "So what do we do now?" Jack took a deep breath. "We face him. Here. We use what we find in the lab to set up a trap." "Are you crazy?" Tyler exclaimed. "This thing is stronger, faster, smarter. We have no chance." "So what do you suggest? Keep running away until he caught us?" Jack countered, his voice firm. Tyler was silent, unable to answer. In the following minutes, the group has divided to look for anything useful. They found gas cylinders, makeshift weapons, and old steel traps. Jack quickly elaborated a plan. They would use the clearing they had found as a battlefield, positioning the traps around and creating a focus of fire with the gas cylinders. "If we can attract him to the clearing, we can have a chance," Jack said, adjusting the rifle. "What if it doesn't work?" Clara asked. Jack looked at her seriously. "So at least we'll fight to the end." When everything was ready, the group positioned themselves in the clearing, each armed with what they had managed to find. Tyler held a rusty axe, Clara carried a flashlight and an old revolver, and Jack had the rifle. The silence was suffocating. Each sound of the forest seemed amplified, and the feeling of being observed was almost palpable. It was then that he appeared. The Mun monkey came out of the shadows, the red eyes shining as fire. He stood for a moment watching them, how to calculate each movement. Jack pointed the rifle. "Now!" The Moan monkey remained motionless by the clearing, the red eyes shining like torches in the darkness. He stared at them, analyzing each one as a predator who knows he is in control. His reddish hair reflected the trembling light of the lanterns that Clara held with her sweaty hands. Jack, with the rifle ready, took a step forward. "You want us, don't you?" he murmured to the creature, as if she could understand him. "Then come get it." A deep grunt reverberated from the monkey demium chest, such a primal sound that it made Clara and Tyler take an involuntary step back. Then, in a sudden and agile movement, he thrown himself forward. "Now!" Jack shouted as he fired the first shot. The deafening noise of the shooting echoed through the forest. The bullet hit the creature's shoulder, pulling a roar of pain, but it only seemed to get it even more. He advanced with impressive speed, dodging the first traps positioned in the clearing as if he knew exactly where they were. Clara took the revolver, firing twice. One of the shots hit the trunk of a tree, but the other was grazed through the creature's leg, which staggered briefly before resuming his race. "He's diverting. How does he know where the traps are?" Tyler shouted, trying to position himself with the axe. Jack realized. "He has been watching us for days. He learned." The Mapan Macaco jumped over one of the steel traps, falling in the middle of the clearing with a crash. Jack took the moment to get one of the gas cylinders and throw him toward the creature. "Clara, the flashlight, now!" Clara understood immediately and threw the flashlight against the cylinder. The impact created a small explosion involving the monkey demon in a wave of heat and smoke. The group heard the dying cry of the creature as it retreated to the shadows. "We achieved?" Tyler asked, breathing heavily. But Jack was not convinced. He kept his rifle pointed at the trees, his gaze fixed on the dark canopy. "Do not lower the guard. This is not over yet." Suddenly, the forest returned to the absolute silence. Clara looked around, holding the revolver hard. The smell of smoke still impregnated the air, and the clearing seemed wrapped in a dense fog caused by the explosion. "Do you think he ran away?" Clara asked the low voice. Before Jack could answer, a high branch broke above them. Everyone looked up, and that's when he attacked again. The monkey demon, with the shake and visible wounds, fell from a branch directly in Tyler, knocking him down with a brutal impact. Tyler shouted, trying to use the axe to defend herself, but the creature was stronger. The sharp claws nailed the shoulder of Tyler, who screamed in pain. "Shot! Shot!" Tyler shouted as he tried to get rid of it. Jack Moreau quickly and fired, hitting the creature's flank. The shot made her back, releasing Tyler, who crawled away, bleeding. Clara ran to him, trying to help him get up. Jack, on the other hand, wasted no time. He ran toward the center of the clearing, where 2 gas cylinders were still left. "Hey, here!" Jack shouted, attracting the creature's attention. The Monet monkey turned to him, his eyes even more intense, as if consumed by anger. He launched himself towards Jack, who waited until the last second before lighting a match and throwing him against the cylinders. The explosion was deafening. A wave of heat and debris crossed the clearing, throwing Jack back. Clara and Tyler lowered, protecting the face from the fragments that flew in all directions. When the dust finally lowered, the Mun monkey was lying on the floor, immovable. Her body was chamusted, and the smell of burnt flesh impregnated the air. "He finished?" Clara asked, helping Tyler get up. Jack slowly approached the body, the rifle pointed out. Each step seemed to last eternity. When he came close enough, he touched his body with the rifle pipe. Nothing. "He finished," he said, finally relaxing. The group sat on the edge of the clearing, exhausted and covered with dirt. Tyler was seriously injured but still conscious. Clara treated his injuries to what was left of the first aid kit, while Jack was guarded, still holding the rifle. "Do you think that was the only one?" Tyler asked, the weak voice. Jack did not respond immediately. He looked at the dark forest around, still feeling that they were being observed. "I don't know. But whatever it is, we need to get out of here before something else appears." As they started preparing their departure, something unexpected happened. A low sound came from the direction of the body of the Mun monkey. Jack froze, turning immediately with the rifle in his hands. The creature's body moved, not as if he were alive, but as if something inside him was pulsing. Clara and Tyler also noticed and retreated, alarmed. "Jack, what is this?" Clara asked, the evident fear in the voice. Before they could react, the creature's chest exploded, and from within it came something small, like a deformed fetus, with red eyes that shone in the darkness. "Run!" Jack shouted, firing at the thing. The group ran through the forest as if their lives depended on it, and in fact, they depended. Whatever had come out of the Madame monkey body was small, but it seemed moved by an animal and deadly energy. The roars that came from behind sounded sharp, almost childish, but were carried fury and something that bordered the supernatural. Jack led the group, carrying the rifle and trying to trace a way back to the boat. Clara helped Tyler, who could barely maintain balance with deep wounds on her shoulder and chest. The injured man who had rescued before was unconscious, being dragged by a makeshift mat of branches. "The further we can go, the better," Jack shouted, his voice drowned out by the sounds of the forest. "Did you see what that did? He left him. It doesn't even make sense." Clara answered, almost in tears. "I know, but questioning now won't help. Let's get out of here alive first." When they finally reached the boat, exhaustion seemed to dominate each member of the group. Jack quickly checked the engine, ensuring that it still worked. "Go up, quickly!" Clara and Tyler helped the injured man up as Jack started the engine. The propeller sound cutting the water brought a wave of momentary relief, but Jack did not relax. He was looking at the bank, waiting for the worst. "Do you think this will follow us?" Tyler asked, leaning against Clara as she pushed gauze against her injuries. Jack did not respond immediately. Instead, he watched the darkness of the forest becoming farther and farther. "Whatever it is, we won't be to find out." As they crossed the swamps, the tension did not decrease. Clara finally broke the silence. "Jack, what do you think was that? Not only the creature, but what came out of it?" Jack sighed, still looking at the water. "I don't know, Clara. But if the documents we found were right, it was all caused by experiments. They created this thing, and it seems that there is still more than we can understand." Clara shook her head, trying to soothe. "But why would they do something like that? What kind of purpose would this be?" "Purpose?" Jack laughed bitterly. "Probably none. Just another experiment of people who thought you could play with God." Hours later, the group finally came to a safer area where the marked trails indicated that they were near a small town. The sun was already being born, painting the sky with orange tones. The vision brought tears in Clara's eyes. "We are out," she murmured, almost not believing. Tyler smiled despite the evident pain. "I never go back to a forest again. Never." "Are you okay?" Clara asked, looking at him. "No. But at least I'm alive." He gave a weak laugh. Upon arriving in the city, they went straight to the hospital. The rescued man was seriously injured, but surprisingly still breathed. Tyler was rushed to surgery, while Clara and Jack waited in the waiting room, exhausted, covered with mud and blood. Clara looked at Jack. "What are we going to do now about all this?" Jack rubbed his face with his hands. He knew the story didn't end there. What they had seen in the forest, the creature, the experiments which came out of it, was just part of something much bigger. "Let's warn the authorities," Jack said finally. "Tell everything. They need to know what is there before someone else dies." "And do you think you will believe it?" Clara asked. "Maybe not, but it doesn't matter. We know the truth." Later, Jack made an anonymous call to an environmental agency reporting the events in the forest. He described the documents, the creature, and even mentioned the abandoned laboratory. He did not mention the most bizarre details, fearing it would be ridiculed, but expected it to be enough to attract attention to the place. After that, he and Clara made a silent pact. They would never return to that forest. Months later, Jack was sitting on the porch of his little house in Everglades, trying to enjoy the calm he hadn't felt for a long time. He still had red-eyed nightmares and the sound of the roars, but every day he seemed to distance himself a little more that night. It was then that he heard a sound from the forest behind his house. He froze, feeling his heart to fire. He got up slowly, taking the rifle he kept beside the door. Again, no, he muttered to himself, walking to the edge of the woods. The sound was repeated, and he pointed the flashlight. Nothing, only the oppressive silence of the trees. Jack sighed deeply and returned inside, locking the door behind him. He knew that this forest, with all his mysteries and horrors, was now part of a closed chapter. The monkey demon, its dark secrets and whatever it was created in that installation were dead and buried. Authorities would investigate the site, and any threat that still existed would be eliminated. For the first time in months, Jack allowed himself to believe he was really safe. He kept the rifle, put off the lights, and while the silence of the night wrapped him, he felt something rare: peace. After all, the worst had been behind. What did you think of this outcome? Leave your opinion in the comments. We love to know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like to support our work. We see each other in the next video.